I'm Ben, and I'm an actor. Well, that's kind of a half-truth. I want to be an actor. At the moment, I'm
Is this acting now? Like, is acting now just plopping a bush on your head and calling it a day? Like, can I go and, like, try out? Is it tryouts? Sign up? Try out? I don't know. Do what you do to get audition for a movie. Plop a bush on my head and call it a day. You know, I think that's a really good thing. I think Matt Damon recommends it. I think that's what he did for his first movie, just plopped a bush on his head. And then everyone was like, wow, that person right there is going to be famous. Yes. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. You're watching Risk Your Piano. Please drop a like, subscribe. We're like 7 away from 100, and I'm so excited for that. But today we're looking at a video that says weird noises from my crush's room revealed her secret. That's a weird title, okay? That means you had to be stalking her, which is already into like the creepy weird side of stuff. So yeah, let's just get right into the video. Roll the intro.
That was until one night a few weeks ago where I had the creepiest shift. It was a Tuesday night, which is normally pretty quiet. But that night, I had to drive to a part of town I hadn't been to before. Most of the houses were really run down, creepy, and abandoned. By the time I got to the address, I was literally shaking. There weren't any lights on at all.
You're telling me you drove through a neighborhood, and by the time you got there, you were scared so much you were physically moving because you saw some abandoned houses, and you were shaking. That's how scared you were.
I knocked on the door and waited, but no one answered. They had ordered 3 pizzas, though, and were paying cash on delivery, so I had a real problem. If I didn't get the money for them, my horrible boss would try to blame me for being late and take the money out of my wage, so I couldn't just leave. I knocked again and then tried the mobile number they had given, but there was no answer. I went around the back of the property. The fence was locked, but I could see a light on at the back of the house. I had to get in and deliver these pizzas. I pushed the pizza boxes under the fence, then climbed over it. I looked in the window.
You're telling me you said you were scared and literally physically shaking, but then you're totally fine just to go around and break into the person's house? Like, my guy literally just walked around back, shoved some pizza in, and hopped the fence. What? And you said you were scared enough that you literally were shaking.
And inside, I saw something so strange and shocking. There were 2 men inside. The house was unfurnished and looked abandoned. One of them was punching a punching bag hanging from the ceiling. The other was counting a pile of money. There were 2 gym bags full of money. Both men were really muscly and scary looking. What on earth had I just seen? As I was looking through the window, my mobile buzzed in my pocket. It was someone calling me about the pizzas. I ran around to the front of the property before I answered my phone. I had no idea what I had just seen, but I don't think they would have wanted me to have seen it. At the front door, I was expecting one of the 2 men to answer, but instead it was a girl about my age. She was seriously hot. She looked like a supermodel. She took the pizzas from me and shut the door behind her. Then I realized that she hadn't paid me. I stood there for a minute feeling stupid, then rang the doorbell again. I was expecting the hot girl to open the door, but instead I was greeted by one of the men. He was about 6'7", wide, muscly, and had a face that you wouldn't mess with. He took a wad of notes out of his pocket and counted them out. He told me to keep the change and shut the door. As I walked back to the car, I could hear the man and the girl arguing. I couldn't help myself. Even though I was scared, I decided to listen in. I crept to the door and put my ear—
Are you again, so first after being scared so much you were shivering, you break into their backyard and then proceed to eavesdrop on them, and you were so scared that you couldn't sit still. Okay, so I don't know if I have to explain this by now, but this is incredibly fake.
Against it. I couldn't hear anything, but it sounded like he was screaming at her for not keeping an eye on the door like she should have been doing. He said that he didn't want anyone to know what they were up to, and she was supposed to keep an eye on the door. That night, I couldn't sleep. I was thinking about how weird that all was. I saw something pretty strange, right? Were they criminals? Was it even their house? What if they were robbers? Was this even their house? And why was the hot girl with them? Maybe she was trapped and needed help. So I called up my boss and told him what had happened. He was so mad. I hadn't realized it was 3 in the morning, so I had woken.
You woke your boss up at 3 in the morning to tell him that some hot girl you met may be kidnapped? What?
He told me not to bother the police as it probably was something innocent and just looked bad. Besides, no one would buy pizzas from us again if we got a reputation for spying. I couldn't sleep. I thought about making an anonymous call to the police, but in the end, I decided to leave it. I just hoped I wouldn't have to deliver to that house again. The next night, my shift started as normal, and I was so relieved to see that I wasn't delivering to that house. In fact, I finished my shift really early. When I got back to the pizza place to give my boss the money, he was waiting for me there with a pile of pizza boxes. He told me that a last-minute order had come through and I had to go out again. You can guess what address I had to deliver to. It was that weird house. I really didn't want to, but I felt like I had no choice. When I got to the scary house, I knocked loudly on the door, but as I did, I realized that the door wasn't even shut properly. It swung open. I called out, but no one answered. I stood on the doorstep for a minute, scared. Then, I realized I had no other choice.
And you continued to go in? Are you insane? This is why horror movies start. This is why they happen. Because some dude with pizza walks into the house, that door is open. Like, think, buddy, think.
And I had to go in. The house was dark and there was hardly any furniture inside. I called out, but there was no answer. There was a door open to a room. You won't believe what I saw. The room was full of loads of computers, like high-tech stuff. It was so weird. Why was this room like this and the rest of the house such a dump? There was no other reason for it. These people must be operating some kind of crime from here. I heard footsteps. It was one of the men. I ran and hid in a dark corner of the room. I heard him walk to the front door and close it. Then, he shouted at the girl, asking why it was open. She said she had thought that she heard the pizza delivery boy. Then, he got really angry, asking why she ordered pizza after how they had almost been caught last night. They started arguing about how she's not watching over the house or the front door. While they were distracted, I took my chance. I ran to the window and opened it, dropping the pizzas as I did so. The noise echoed around the house. Just as the man ran into the room, I climbed out of the window and ran back to my car. Now, I was really scared. I called my boss and told him what happened.
Oh, well, I just want to point out that if I was in this guy's position and I knocked on the door and opened, I'd be 6 miles away in a matter of seconds. I'm not sitting there. I drop the pizzas and leave. My boss can fire me. I don't care. I'm keeping my life more than a couple of pizza and with some cash on the side, I don't care.
Happened, and he actually listened to me. I told him I was going to call the police, and he told me not to bother. He would do it himself. The next day, I had college classes all day, and I really pushed myself with my acting as a distraction from what had happened. I had that night off of work, so I stayed late at the college rehearsing monologues. Then, I got a voicemail from my boss. He told me that the thug from the scary house had visited the pizza place himself late last night and had paid for the pizzas. He had reassured my manager that nothing weird was going on there and that he was sorry for scaring me. He said that he would explain everything to me when I next saw him. I felt really worried. By the time I had left...
Don't go back. If you see like a room that looks like it's good enough to be like a GTA heist room, you don't go back. Oh, well, you don't go back.
College to walk back to my apartment. It was dark. But this time, it felt different. I could hear footsteps following me. I sped up and ran around a corner, but then the footsteps got quicker as well. I looked behind me. It was dark, but I could see that the person following me was over 6 feet tall and wide. It was one of the thugs from the house. I got my phone out of my pocket and went to call the police, but I had a problem.
This is so fake. This is like actually like movie. Like this is what you see in horror movies, like when someone's like chasing you and the phone's dead at the exact wrong moment. Like this is exactly that moment.
Out of battery. So I looked around and saw an open coffee shop on the corner. I ran inside there and I ducked into a dark corner. I peeked out and saw the thug walking around the streets, confused about where I had gone. Then he walked off. What on earth was going?
Are you telling me he's so blind that when he was following you, you ducked into a coffee shop and he didn't see you? Are you telling me he's that blind?
on? My boss said the man was okay, but now he was following me. I bought myself a drink and sat down and tried to relax. I needed to get home. As I was having my drink, someone sat opposite me. I looked up, and it was the gorgeous girl from the house. She was holding a cup of coffee and gave me a big smile. She introduced herself and apologized for scaring me. Then, in walked the 2 thug men. I considered screaming out for help, but there was something different about them. They smiled at me and looked really friendly. They bought drinks and came and sat down and told me that they wanted to explain everything to me. One of them got out a tablet and started showing me clips of horror films. I was really confused for a minute. Then, I realized what it was. It was a show reel. They were making a short horror film at the house, which is why they had all of the computers. They were editing equipment. The bag full of money was just a prop. They were keeping the shoot a secret as the landlord wouldn't be happy to know that they were using the house to make a film. I felt like such an idiot. Why had I jumped to such stupid conclusions without thinking logically? I felt
Well, I mean, like, I just wouldn't be in this situation. I want to point out, and I just like to point out that I would have been like 20 miles away when I knocked on the door and no one answered. I just would have dropped it, just left. I wouldn't have climbed the fence, I know that. Just, yeah, no.
so much better. Then he said to me something really amazing. How would you like an acting role in the film? Obviously, I jumped at the chance. I had gone from thinking I was going to be kidnapped to getting my first ever film role. I was confused though. How had they found me and found out I was an actor? That was when the hot girl jumped in. She said that she had found my headshot online when looking for an actor for the film and had recognized me. The college I was at was listed, so they decided to come and find me and offer me a role. That night, I turned up at the house ready for a night shoot. They hadn't explained much to me, only that it was a vampire film and I would be playing a man who had been kidnapped by some vampires and was being held captive. They told me that when I had signed the contract and the non-disclosure agreement, they would tell me more. When I got there, the girl answered the door and said we would be ready to start shooting soon. She put some makeup on me and messed up my hair. I hadn't seen a script yet, which was pretty weird, but I was a professional and I knew that these things can be very last minute.
I thought you said that you were studying. How are you professional if you're studying? What?
She told me what I was wearing would be fine for this scene, as it was the one where I was being held captive. She asked me to put my hands behind my back, and then she put handcuffs on me. They were pretty tight for props, but I thought that it would really help me with my method acting. She helped me walk into the room where we were shooting and asked me to sit on the floor and wait.
This guy's so dumb he let himself into being a hostage. Jesus. It's so incredibly dumb.
While they were setting up the lighting. The room was dusty and dirty. She left me a while and I sat and waited. And that was when I heard some weird noise coming from a cupboard in the room. It sounded like there was something in there. Then the girl walked back in and she said that they were almost ready for the scene to begin. She attached the handcuffs to a metal rung on the floor and said she would be back in a minute. When she left, I heard the noise again coming from the cupboard. I looked over and I could see something moving in there. It swung open and my boss fell out. He was handcuffed too. He looked really scared. I almost screamed, but then I stopped.
Bro, he's just acting like you. You guys go to the same college, just different classes. You guys are just acting. Nothing's going wrong here.
Stopped myself. I couldn't let anyone know that I had seen my boss. I felt into my pocket and found my mobile, and with one hand I dialed the police and whispered down to the phone what was going on. They said they would send someone out immediately. Then, I heard footsteps coming down the corridor. I whispered to my boss to get back in the cupboard. Somehow, he managed to wriggle back in there and to pull the door with his foot so it was almost closed. The girl and the two men came in, and now they weren't pretending. If you hadn't been so nosy, you wouldn't be in this mess, Ben. Now, we'll have to keep you here for a few days until we have finished our work. Then, my phone fell out of my pocket, and they realized I had called the police. They looked at each other in panic, but before they could react, there was flashing lights outside. The police were here. I closed my eyes, expecting for one of the men to hurt me. But then, I heard running and shouting. They had run away. The police came in and untied us. I was safe. That was a month ago, and it seems weird to believe that I was held hostage. It is only now that the police have told us everything. So the criminals had hired the house as they were there hiding out. They were hackers and thieves who used their technical skills to steal money from people. They had captured my boss as he had become suspicious of what they were doing. Then, they panicked and had decided to kidnap me too. They claimed that they had never planned to hurt me or my boss. They had just planned to keep us in the house while they decided where to run to next. The money I had seen was stolen and real after all. They had known I was an actor through looking for me online. I had loads of socials about my acting career, so finding me online was pretty easy. So now I am back to my days at college and my night delivering pizzas. But now my boss is much nicer to me as he thinks I saved his life. I'm still far from my dream of becoming an actor though. But at least I'll be interviewed on TV soon about the crimes when they all go to prison. Who knows? Maybe they'll make a movie about this one day and I'll get to play the part myself in the movie.
What? I don't know what I just watched. That was the fakest thing I've ever seen in my life. But I mean, let's take this was real for a second. My guy literally walked into... He was sus about this for a second. Then they lied to him. and he walked into being a hostage. How low brain cell do you have to be? Holy crap. But with that, that's gonna wrap up the video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be seeing you guys later. Peace.